imagination, prophecy, enlightenment, and truth. These are the four principles of the Transcendent Worlds. Four worlds, fitted with galaxies, realms, and planets abound. Who am I, you may ask? I am the mysterious stranger. I will be your guide through these vast worlds. Worlds fitted into these universes. These are the tales that we wish to tell, that I have the honor to share with you. These are the tales of the verse.
The bitter cold shifted in the night. Snow fell near the black, dark, ominous trees as Scorpio entered the clearing. Here it was that he came to see a familiar face. Though, as many can tell you, familiar faces tend to change. Everything changes. Every moment, something shifts, like the sands in the great dune seas. As the wind blows, the sand changes its shape and form, addressing the environment around it. The seasons change. As spring begins to age, fading into summer, going into fall, and dying in winter. We change. Every day, we grow older, wiser. Our personalities and opinions and emotions shift. From what they were before, they mold into something more solid and more concrete. And as we define, the world defines. Everything changes. Scorpio's feet were heavy. He had dreaded coming here. He had thought about it for some time. But he knew, inevitably, that he would come. He was driven to come. So as he stepped into the clearing, he heard familiar hooves, and he saw the familiar face. The sound of the hooves was also heavy. It pressed neatly, however, into the snow that had frozen over the grass that had grown so sweetly in this clearing. And there he stood. A centaur. Dark gray he was, long black hair across the back of him. He wore a hood covering a part of his face and head, and it wrapped around his neck. A quiver of arrows shouldered across him, and a golden bright bow clenched in his left hand. This was no ordinary centaur, for he had golden hooves that glowed so brightly and divine. One may mistake him for a god rather than a centaur.
Who goes there?
The centaur announced. It is I, Scorpio, Lord of the House Scorpio. I have come to speak with Sagittarius, Lord of this realm. Sagittarius looked upon him and smiled.
And so he shall speak with him. It is good to see you, old friend.
He stepped forward and looked upon Scorpio. His eyes widened as he saw him.
My friend, you look grave in this hour. What has come upon you?
I have come to enact an ancient law, The right of challenge. Sagittarius for a time did not say anything. For a moment he pondered what Scorpio had requested.
The right of challenge. You wish to go into combat with me, even after our last quarrel.
The last quarrel will not be like this one, I promise you, Sagittarius. Sagittarius, upon hearing this, released a loud and proud laugh.
Truly, Scorpio, you believe that you will best me. If I do recall, Scorpio, I did loose several arrows upon you. And, if I remember correctly, most of them did find their mark. What makes you think you will win this time?
This time, you will be unprepared. I promise you that.
We shall see.
Sagittarius took 3 steps to the left, and then, when he came to a stop, lifted his chest proudly and announced,
What is it that you have come to challenge me for? More time in the realm? More power over the season?
Yes, I do wish for more time and power over the season. 2 weeks, nothing more. Sagittarius eyed Scorpio from across the clearing.
2 weeks. I wonder what is it that you seek during that time?
Scorpio watched carefully as Sagittarius stepped around him. He was very proud, which was very unusual. Sagittarius was more commonly a very wise and meditative person. He thought deeply about things. But it seemed that Sagittarius was in a very righteous mood. I only seek for more time so that I may hunt my enemies.
Your enemies?
Sagittarius inquired. As he asked, his ears perked up in great curiosity. Yes, I seek out a foe who has eluded me for some time.
I see. Well then, I best not keep you waiting then. If you were to find this peculiar foe, if he's eluded you already, I almost doubt you'll be able to find him soon. Are you sure 2 weeks will be enough?
2 weeks will be fine. Now tell me, what is it that you request in return? The air grew tense. Sagittarius continued to tweak with his bow, and his eyes shifted, looking at Scorpio and towards his bow, as if eager to begin the challenge.
Well, I have not thought of it, but I am curious about your enemies. Why won't you tell me?
It is not of your concern. Now tell me what you request. Sagittarius stared intensely back at Scorpio, almost to challenge Scorpio's stare, that he may break it and pull his eyes away from him. But ever since he got into the clearing, he had done nothing but stare right at Sagittarius.
Well, if you're so eager to get the challenge going, I request one thing.
Name it. Sagittarius trotted to the right, and as he spoke, his eyes drifted to the sky. Centaurs often look to the starry sky to reflect on their thoughts.
All I ask is that you tell me who it is you hunt. I would wish to only know, so that I myself may protect my people during these dark times.
For a moment, Scorpio said nothing. He pondered on the thought. But in an instant, he said, I accept the challenge. He flicked his wrist. Upon doing so, 2 golden blades extended out from a bronze bracer on his left arm. Now, let us begin. Scorpio took his stance, putting his left arm forward and his right behind him, ready to strike like a scorpion, waiting for its prey to move. Sagittarius, on the other hand, smirked, and in great confidence drew back 3 arrows against the string of his bow. It was so tightly drawn back that the arrows looked excited to be released. Your move, Scorpio announced.
Gladly.
1 arrow flew right through the air. It shot like a lightning bolt. But as quickly as it went, its golden streak across the air, Scorpio was even quicker. He darted forward, and in an instant, he shattered the first arrow. Turning, moving his right shoulder, he rolled against the ground and came up, the second arrow already close to his face. But again, in an instant, he cut the second arrow right in half. And as he launched himself up, the third arrow pierced him into the right shoulder. It was quite strong. The arrow itself began to drain his strength and his energy, even for Scorpio, a Zodiac, whose power was unmatched and could even rival a god. He weakened and fell low to his feet.
Hurts, doesn't it?
Sagittarius remarked.
Now, I would choose to yield if I were you.
Lifting his bow, he drew back another arrow, pointing it right between Scorpio's eyes, straight to the forehead. I never pegged you for a murderer, Sagittarius. You look quite eager to release that arrow.
Well,
Sagittarius began to say.
I am the great hunter of the woods. The archer, of course. One who does not leave his prey so willing to fight.
And yet, I enacted the right of challenge. As Scorpius said this, he lifted his left hand ever so slightly towards the arrow stuck in his right shoulder. And by right of challenge, you cannot kill me.
Quite true, Scorpio. But the grip on my string is getting quite...
Before he could finish, Scorpio pulled out the arrow from his shoulder, and in an instant, he began to swing it towards Sagittarius. And as it came towards him, small bits of icicles began to build around the arrow. And before Sagittarius knew, an icy bat was hitting him.
I yield. I submit, Scorpio. You have bested me.
Scorpio jumped from his feet. Standing right over Sagittarius, he brought his blades towards his neck. Indeed. Yield now. Give me what I've requested. Sagittarius, with a disappointed look, turned to the ground.
All right. You win. 2 weeks more to rule over the season. It is yours.
But rather than retract his blades, Scorpio brought them closer, and his right hand dropped a chain.
What? Is that not enough?
No, Scorpio said with dissatisfaction.
What? What do you mean, no? You have bested me. Now take your prize and...
No! Scorpio said again, his anger growing, bubbling like a volcano. We're not finished.
You would dare ask for more when I, at your feet, have been defeated? You dare threaten me and...
No! You do not understand, do you? Sagittarius glared at Scorpio with a peculiar look.
I do not understand. What game are you?
No. What game are you playing at? Ever since I arrived, you've had nothing better to do than gloat of your own glory. To speak of your own skill. And in all of your words, only talk of how great you are.
And what does that make of me? Is that a crime?
Oh, indeed. Such a vile crime that even you know it all too well. Sagittarius began to become frightened. He dragged himself somewhat further, but only got an inch before Scorpio's blades got closer to his throat. Do not play any more games with me. I know who you are. For all of your skill and craft, you lacked one thing that could not put you any closer to Sagittarius.
You fool! You're mad! I am Sagittarius!
But Scorpio leaned in closer. The frosty breath coming from his golden mask, his eyes glowing like burning flames, scorching an entire forest. And as he stared right into the golden eyes of Sagittarius, he whispered, "No, you're not. For all of the craft you carry, all of the skill you have of his, you lack one thing, his wisdom." In an instant, Scorpio wrapped the golden chain around Sagittarius's neck, stinging him all about, causing him to wail and writhe. "I will break your legs and make you crawl before me, you worm!" As Scorpio said this, Sagittarius's pain faded, and he smiled grimly towards Scorpio.
Oh. You think this is pain? You think you have me trapped? Oh, Scorpio, you are a fool.
A great burst of red, black, and orange flames scattered all across. Scorpio drew back. His chains fell to the ground and returned to him, almost on command. And there, the body of the great centaur faded. It scorched into ash, and there, in the flames, emerged a dark figure. He wore red, black robes. They swirled about him in such magnificence and horror that he appeared as one who was great and wise. But what was more terrifying were his hands and face. His hands were black and skeletal. They looked like that of oil with no shine. So dark and pitiless. And so was his face. It too was a black oblivion. The only thing to bring out any shine were its red, crimson eyes. His entire head was covered in flames, which seemed to go all about his body on the top, from his left to his right shoulders. And his head, it hovered from where a neck should be, and it was almost like that of a skull, but more misshapen, and there were no orifices other than a mouth, large and gaping, with a small grin. And within the mouth was nothing more than a flaming hellish void.
Was it entertaining, Scorpio, to see an old friend?
Scorpio pointed the chain towards his foe before him, revealing a large stinger-like blade, like that of a scorpion's tail.
You will not escape from me this time, Zodiacus. Your tricks will not work here. Not this time.
Zodiacus, continuing to laugh, began to circle around Scorpio.
I must hand it to you. I did not expect you to outdo my tricks. Most people fall for them all too easily. As I recall, your wife did not suspect a thing when I approached you in your chambers.
The words seemed to cut the nerve of Scorpio, for he threw the chain blade towards his foe, but Zodiacus faded into the darkness before he could reach him.
Ah! Come out and fight, you coward!
Coward! Weren't you meant to be in that chamber? I thought it was you that I had seen. But before your wife spoke her first words, asking if it were you, I had already begun the spell. Oh, that black blade dug so deep into her chest.
Do not speak of my wife, you insolent pig!
Zodiacus's voice cackled across the dark wood. It seemed to be everywhere, his voice at every tree and at every stone and blade of grass. He was everywhere and nowhere all at once.
Always so easy to stoke your fire. That's why you're so much fun. You are cunning, tenacious, and above all else, hot-headed. Almost like me. But I'm sure you're not as smart, are you? You may have revealed my tricks here, but clearly you could not save your friend. Do all of the people in your life seem to die when you're not looking, when you're distracted by something?
My wife will be avenged, and now Sagittarius will too.
Scorpio shot right back at Zodiacus. But, almost unimpressed, Zodiacus continued to speak.
Yes, yes. I'm sure you will bring your vile vengeance against me. But what would your wife think? What would Artemis want?
Do not speak her name, or I will cut you.
Cut my what? You can barely grasp me. I am but a shadow in the wind, out in these woods. But what of her? What would she think of your recent escapades?
The crushing of snow came from behind Scorpio.
Now I have you.
In an instant, he turned, but then he stopped. Just before the blade left his hand, he could not believe it.
Artemis, it cannot be.
A beautiful woman, long brown hair, like that of oak wood, and a long silver dress with gold lining, dripping like that of a moving waterfall, or like glass not yet taken shape. And her face, it shone like that of the moon, Her eyes, that crystal blue, that hypnotized Scorpio every time he looked upon her.
Hello, my love. Why are you here?
Scorpio dropped his left arm. His stance began to weaken.
You're dead.
My love. Love never dies. It burns on in the ever flame of this moon and sun. Put down your weapons.
Scorpio slowly dropped his right hand, and the chain loosened.
No. You can't be here. This is a dream. Maybe I have not woken from yet.
Scorpio, it is not a dream. My love, why do you persist on this careless errand? What will become of the realm while you chase after this shadow? Is it not in your mind?
My mind.
Scorpio replied.
My mind. No. This is not a dream.
Clenching the chain, he pulled up the blade, ready for another strike.
My love, do not become so angered.
Artemis took 3 steps closer, and Scorpio tensed his shoulders. Putting up his weapons, he was unsure of what he saw before him.
No. This cannot be.
My love, why did you let me die? Why do you chase these demons in the night? These things will not reward my death. You must recall that it was you who should have been there. You, my love.
Every word stabbed at him like daggers to his back.
I should have been there. I should have been there. I should have not been in the court halls, wasting away those hours planning and preparing for things that had not come to pass. If only I had not let the hours change my ways.
As he said this, Artemis put forth her hand.
Come, my love. You can make all right. Give me your hand.
Dropping his head, Scorpio, in an anguished reply, only said,
I love you, Artemis. I pray you will forgive me. But you are not her.
Tossing the blade straight towards her chest, Artemis screamed. But what was the scream of a woman became that of a monster. Her hands dripped into a black, ivory liquid. Her mouth began to drip as well with the strange liquid, and her eyes turned to a bright orange, flaming and terrible.
You stinger!
The chain came pulling out as Scorpio tugged, and she fell to the ground. Zodiacus returned to his form, the flames bolting all over.
I recall how terrible your sting is. I will return the favor.
As his hands laid on the ground, a strange symbol appeared, almost like that of a star, but more crooked and twisted. And from it, red flames appeared all around Scorpio. And in an instant, black, serpent-like dragon heads came pouring out of the ground, and they gripped the arms and legs of Scorpio and pulled him to his knees.
One of your spells will not hold me Zodiacus. I am more powerful than...
Oh, yes, yes, yes. I know of your skill and your power.
Getting up, Zodiacus spat as he spoke.
But I also have my ways. For now you will be in your spot. Sit. Enjoy yourself. It will all be over soon.
Scorpio reluctantly pulled at each of the heads as they bit into his flesh. Though they drew blood, it was nothing to him. Only small, sharp pains jabbing into him. But he was quite immune to most pain.
Why do this, Zodiacus? What do you seek to gain from all of this? This is a waste, even for you. Your magic, your sorcery.
I have heard it all, Scorpio. I tire of the insults, the remarks. Doesn't it grow tired to chase me?
Never!
Scorpio exclaimed.
I will never cease to hunt you until you are dead. My vengeance fuels me.
Yes, so I see. But what does it give you? What does it profit you? Do you not grow tired and weary? This change that has begun in you?
What are you going on about, Zodiacus?
Scorpio inquired. For a moment, Zodiacus said nothing. He simply began to walk around, aimlessly around Scorpio, as if deep in thought, looking towards the stars. But eventually he came full circle and stopped in front of Scorpio.
Tell me, Scorpio. Do you fear change?
Scorpio said nothing, though writhing in a bit of pain. He did think upon the question.
What are you going on about, Zodiacus?
Tell me, honestly, do you fear change? Because I do. I worry of the ever-going cycle that we mortals and immortals must be privy to. That we must suffer the great abominable prison called life.
Scorpio began to listen intently. Leaning in, he waited to hear the plight of Zodiacus.
You see, my friend, I have been trapped for so long. We all have. Do you not tire of the change of the seasons? Why can we not have spring? Why must we suffer the drool of winter, or the scorning of summer, or even the dying of fall? It tires me. It wearies me. And death.
He turning to Scorpio as he said this.
Death is an insult. That very change we cannot halt. It must persist. It must seek after us, bring us to the grave and end our lives. It, again, worries me. Oh, must I go on about age and time? Those overbearing rules upon us. We cannot be free of them. Why must we suffer? Why must we, on the ground here, be privy to these tyrannical things, as the gods above us are not subject to such rule? I scoff at them. Why do they get to decide who is remembered in the constellations above? Why is it that the Zodiac are promised the glory to join all of their brothers and sisters in the heavens? To be immortalized as symbols, never to change, never to be corrupted, never to have to suffer sins or mistakes.
Scorpio had stopped struggling. and only stared at Zodiacus as he spoke every word.
This is your plight?
Scorpio asked.
This is why you killed my wife in an attempt to kill me. This is why you killed Sagittarius. Change. Because you do not like how the seasons turn.
No, you fool!
Zodiacus cried out.
It is much more than that. It is everything. The laws that do rule over us, that command our very destiny. We, who must live below the gods, the zodiac, the constellations. It is us who must change continually. Everything around us changes. We cannot live in the time of adolescence, when all is innocent. No. We have to learn. We have to grow. We have to be responsible. Why could we not live in such joy and happiness? Why must we be robbed of it? Why can we not live in spring, to live in such glory and lavishness? Why is it that it all must be stripped away? This divine intervention, this time of chronicle, why this impending doom of death? I seek to free all from these pitiful things, to be as the gods, the zodiac, the constellations, to be the immortal beings that we were born to be.
As Zodiacus said this, Scorpio began to pull away from the heads of the dragons. Their grips began to loosen, and their eyes, almost as if to cry, dropped molten like tears.
Do you not see, Scorpio? We are all prisoners. I wish to free us, to free me, so that I can be the only Zodiac. No more laws to define who we are, no clans to separate us, all one, no changing people, no drifters, only one. And I will free us. And when we are free...
Before he could finish, Scorpio pulled from the heads of the dragons and lunged his chain towards Zodiacus. But before it could reach him, he grabbed the end of the chain, just barely reaching his head.
Even when I have grabbed your stinger, you still sting me and mock me. When will you end your persistence?
Never!
Well, if the dragons could not hold you, then there is no need for me to stay any longer. I have someone to see, after all. My brother.
As he said this, Scorpio's eyes widened, and he knew what was happening.
Capricorn, your brother. You go to kill all of the Zodiac. You wish to remove us.
Finally, you've caught on. I will be sure to let him know you said hello.
Releasing the chain, Zodiacus began to put forth his arms. Waving them in the air, flames began to gather round and devour his body, fading away his shape.
Well, I do not have any more time for our games, unfortunately. I will miss being here with you. Do take care. I hope you recover from your friend's death.
But as Zodiacus began to fade, Scorpio knelt to the ground, picking up a cluster of snow, and began to rush towards Zodiacus.
There is no point, Scorpio. I have already vanished.
Oh, but on the contrary. There is one thing you neglected to mention when going about mocking who I am.
Oh, and what's that?
Scorpio, lifting his arms together, came forward with a frozen blade that the snow had shaped into.
Scorpions always leave their mark.
Before Zodiacus completely vanished, his hand dropped, the blade having cut so hard, Zodiacus screamed. Fading away, all that remained was his writhing black hand, like a dying spider. Shriveling up, it turned into a black, disgusting ooze. And Scorpio fell to his knees.
I will get you. I will find you. If you head to Capricorn, I will reach you. And if he falls too, then I will make every sting worse than the last. And I will make sure that each sting changes so that it is worse and more bitter.
Scorpio lifted himself up, and with a sigh of both relief and anger, he finally said,
Now, I go on, flitting into the night.
For some, change is the hard, inevitable truth. One where people cannot remain. One where others cry in their dreams, becoming dark nightmares. While for some, like the great Scorpio, change is all too present. For the greatest strength of Scorpios, above all else, is to grow in power with every changing moment, whether challenging or consistent.